your social media on a small budget, how to advertise on social media on a small budget. I am Natalie Ferreira, Senior Social Media Specialist here at Infusionsoft.
And I'm Crystal Huft, Social Media Manager. And we have with us today Logan Young, co-founder of BlitzMetrics and an expert in Facebook marketing. So let's get started. I'm not sure if you know this, but the average adult spends about 2.5 hours a day on social media. I mean, that's crazy. So Natalie and I, and probably Logan, I don't know, I'm not sure about him anymore. He just told me he doesn't have Facebook on his phone, but definitely.
Just on the shirt, not on the phone. Yeah.
And he definitely makes money off of his marketing on Facebook and helps several small businesses with that. Mm-hmm. For us, though, we definitely spend even more than that, so don't use us as an example.
So we're going to be talking all about social media advertising on a small budget, so please post your questions below. Also, if you think anybody in your network might benefit from this live show, make sure to share. And we also have a guide that we have posted the link to on here. If not, we'll share it on the comments, so please check that out for more details.
So as we said, today we're going to talk about some tips for advertising on social media with a small budget, which is extremely important for small business owners. You probably feel like a lot of times you have to spend a lot of money to get anything done on Facebook or social media in general, but it's really not the case. So since it's so important to have a social media presence, we're going to just break down some tips for how to really make your small budget effective on your social media channels.
Yes. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room right now.
Big.
Facebook and Instagram. So if you haven't heard yet, Facebook and Instagram have changed their algorithm drastically. And algorithm is the way that you see things post or the way that your posts are shared on the feed. So for example, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to reach your audience on Facebook or on Instagram if you don't follow certain tips that we're going to give you in a little bit. So stay tuned. But you'll probably see drop in the reach and the engagement and the followers, but don't worry, we'll get to that.
And also in some cases it's not awful for that to happen because you're actually reaching a more targeted audience and an audience that's actually showing signs that they're interested in what you are sharing. So because of these changes, we wanted to highlight just very quickly before we dig into the social media marketing tips for advertising. We wanted to dive into some of these changes and make sure that you're using best practices to ensure the greatest reach. So you guys at BlitzMetrics, you guys use a lot of video.
Yep.
And that's definitely a good sign for the algorithm changes. You should keep using video, right?
Yeah, video is huge. Facebook 2018. We've all heard it's a pay-to-play game. Now it's a film-to-play. You should be definitely using video in part of your content strategy.
Yeah, and more importantly, using live video whenever you can. If you have a great event or if you have a customer that wants to talk about your business, find ways to get out there live like we are today, like Natalie does every Friday with marketing tips. Getting out there with live video is really going to help you with getting to more of a broader audience. So I really recommend it. And Logan's going to talk a little bit more in a bit about how he uses his videos for strategies with marketing. But definitely if you're not making video, make video, get out there live and reach your audience.
Exactly. Another thing you can do is having meaningful interactions. That means having people comment not just one word, but a few words on your posts, like, hey, even a question. Hey, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? And then you give them something meaningful to take away so that Facebook will recognize that post as something meaningful to share to a broader audience. So something else that you can do is ask your followers or your audience to heart it, to react to a post, so they're not just liking it, but they're reacting and using all of the features that Facebook has available for them.
But be careful of what Natalie just said too, because one of the other things is Facebook really doesn't want you using engagement bait. So you have to, in order to get those meaningful interactions, you really have to make sure that you're putting out the kind of content that everyone wants to see and not asking them to share in the comment or in the captions. Don't ask them to, don't try to build up your audience by saying like, comment, and share to enter this contest. Facebook's going to actually decrease your reach. Is that right?
Yeah, they frown on engagement bait. More than decreasing reach, it's just not the best long-term strategy for actually monetizing because you're bringing in people for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Definitely. Okay, and the next one?
And I have a bonus tip. So start a community group on Facebook. Facebook is huge on social. So what are they about? They're a social channel, right? So if you create a group, for example, let's say you have a psychology practice, and you create a group where it's just motivational quotes or people saying nice things to each other, and it's a closed private group or an open group. Now you have another avenue on your Facebook page that people will go to, and Facebook will recognize your page as something that's meaningful, that brings people together, that creates and builds a community.
Definitely. I mean, I suggest an open group, and if you have a need for a closed group, that is good too. It just depends on your audience, but open group is going to really allow for those meaningful interactions and for a community to be built easiest. So have you guys had any experience with any groups or heard of anything any of your clients are using them for?
Yeah, groups are great. This has been a push for Facebook starting with last June where they had a summit just talking about groups. And it's a great way to build community, which is what they want to do. They want people to be able to go on Facebook and interact with their friends, family, and like-minded peers, as opposed to just receive foreign content. So groups are great for everyone to engage, and definitely there'll be changes rolling out in the future. You'll probably be able to serve ads to people in your group. That's something you can't do right now, but it's definitely an area of focus for Facebook and something that they're productizing quite a bit.
Awesome. And the last tip we have here for the algorithm changes is actually an oldie but a goodie. It is post relevant content. I mean, this is something you guys should be doing anyway, so make sure your content is something your audience is going to find meaningful. One thing we keep as our true North Star as we build out content for our channel here is really thinking of bite-sized things you guys can take home and do in your own business today. That's really what we want to do, is help you with something that you can take away and make happen right away, even with your busy schedules. So if we ever aren't doing that, please send us any feedback. We would love to make sure we're hitting that for you guys and sending you that relevant content.
So if you have any questions, please ask them. Right now you can hit us with anything about what we just talked about. And Justin Baker says he agrees, so thank you and hello. Then he says live video is great, as well as animated micro content videos. What do you think? I totally agree.
Yeah, live video is great for connecting with the audience. Like you guys were talking about earlier, it gets a little bit more reach right now. Facebook, anytime they put out a new product, it's kind of in their incentive. They want it to see it be successful. So Facebook Live is a relatively new feature. It's been around for, a few years now, but still, because of that, they want it to work. So they're giving people more reach for doing it. And in general, they want people to do video because it allows you to sequence content on the paid side.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then Isabel asks, how would you increase your group members on a cultural group?
I mean, I would say just really getting out there and talking about the culture it is. I'm not exactly sure what kind of cultural group you mean, but if it is something to do with heritage, I would find blogs, videos, talk to everyone, ask them their questions about how they feel in that own group, and just keep engaging.
Yeah, whether you're trying to grow a group, a page, or a profile, for any of them, getting started is the hardest part because people kind of buy into the herd effect on Facebook where word of mouth is a real thing. And once you get enough social proof, enough people in the group, you'll hit a breaking point where you'll just get followers a lot more quickly. But initially, when someone sees a group and there's 10 members in it, no one wants to be like that first person to join or click like on something. So initially, it's a little bit harder because people are more skeptical because the content doesn't have the social proof, But as you build it up, you'll hit that breaking point. So just keep at it, regularly post content, do things to engage the audience, and then over time it'll grow. And then once you hit that breaking point, usually it's around like a few hundred, especially for a group. Once you get in the triple digits, then people just see that it's over 100, then you'll see things start to take off more from there.
Exactly. And then Tom says, just signed up for Infusionsoft. These are very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, keep watching. We're about to dive into the tips for advertising on social media with a small budget, which I know is something you all care about. Right now, we're going to dive right in, and we're going to have Logan talk to us about digital plumbing. I was fortunate enough to go to a BlitzMetrics workshop almost a year ago, and it was extremely helpful. One of the areas they talk about is digital plumbing. And I'll tell you, I'm not very comfortable with it. They're great teachers. They helped several people in the room. And for me, it would be something I would want to outsource, which is also an option. So, Logan, tell us, what is digital plumbing?
Yes.
Yeah, so digital plumbing is basically having your tracking in place. So we use a 6-phase system called the social amplification engine. And we're known for working on big enterprise clients like the Golden State Warriors, MGM, TiVo, Nike. So I don't care if you're an enterprise or if you've never run an ad before. These are like the basic fundamental principles you should be following to have success online. So plumbing is getting all your tracking in place on your website. Because ultimately, at some point, you probably have to send someone to the site, so that's where they purchase, that's where the cart is, etc. So it's having your Facebook pixel, your Google Pixels, Google Tag Manager. And there's two things. One is you want to set the tracking in place so you can retarget people. The average consumer needs 7 touches with a brand before they'll convert. Usually, even when someone goes to a website, they might not buy right then and there because they're busy, they forget, they want to do some more research on your competitors, but they're probably likely to buy. So you need the pixel in place so you can retarget them, which is a fancy way of saying, okay, all these people that came to my site yesterday, serve them another ad, and maybe I'm saying, hey, if you buy today, there's 10% off, or it looks like you forgot to check out, make sure you come finish, whatever it is, right? So it's good for that, and then if you do it the right way, it's good for site speed. So site speed is increasingly important. Facebook, last August, they came out with this study that said if your site takes longer than 3 seconds to load, over 50% of the traffic will abandon the request. Because the thing you guys have to realize is the majority of the traffic is on their mobile devices, which means they're at a restaurant, they're in an Uber, they're with friends. So if they're on Facebook scrolling and they click on your ad, it takes them over to the browser. If it's taking like loading, they don't have the patience. So we work right now with a big brand. They're a household name. I won't tell you who, but you would all know their name if I told it to you guys. And they have a slow site because they have heavy images, these different things. So anyways, we are seeing over 50% of the people who click on their ads are abandoning, and that's just bad for a ton of reasons, which I don't have time to go into. But so that's what plumbing is. Like Crystal mentioned, in terms of outsourcing, we have a guide on a video course, or we can do it for you guys if you guys are interested in that. But it's not like the sexy part of advertising, because it's like, working on the back end of the site, setting up pixels, but it's definitely the proper foundation. Without it, you're not likely to be successful. You should not spend money sending anyone to your website until you have it in place.
True, that I agree with. Because if you don't know where they're coming from, or you don't know if you can retarget them, it's honestly just pointless. Because you don't know what worked and what didn't. You're just seeing traffic increase. So you keep doing everything, but it may be one thing you're doing that's actually sending all that traffic. So I definitely agree with that. And although, like I said, I would totally outsource it, it's not sexy, but it does lead to sexy benefits in the end. And one of my favorite ways to actually retarget and boost any of my posts is to use that Facebook pixel, because I can actually say anyone that's been on our site or anyone that's engaged with us, I can actually use that to determine who I'm sending out new content to.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you a ton of flexibility down the line.
You may have already answered this, and I think you kind of did, but are there like a top 3 things that a business should do in the next month if they were going to start looking at their digital plumbing? Yeah,
so the first thing, put a Facebook pixel on the site. You want to put it site-wide. Facebook has 9 standard events or 6 standard events. They change it.
How do they put a Facebook pixel?
Get his course. That's a little more in-depth.
When you set up an ad account, one of the options in Ads Manager will be a pixel, and then Facebook creates it for you. It's a piece of code, so you literally just copy and paste it. You go to your site, you put it site-wide on every single page. So that's one. Google AdWords is the other. So Facebook and Google are huge, right? So Facebook and Google together own an 80% duopoly over the online market.
That's crazy.
So if you're not on those channels, I'm not sure where you are, right? I mean, Facebook includes Instagram, right? Facebook owns 4 of the top 10 apps in the App Store. But same thing for the Google AdWords remarketing pixel. It's just a piece of code. You copy and paste it, put it on the site. So that would be 1 and 2, the Facebook pixel, Google AdWords remarketing, and then run everything through Google Tag Manager, which is basically a container. It holds all your tags. So the purpose is, let's say down the line you want to advertise on Twitter or Snapchat or LinkedIn. Well, all these different platforms have their own pixels because they all want to track the traffic. So Google Tag Manager, rather than every time having to go back and put it on every single page of your site, you just have Google Tag Manager site-wide, and then you just put it in your Google Tag Manager, which then loads it everywhere. And Google Tag Manager is good for site speed because it lets everything load at the same time. So
awesome.
Yeah, don't want to get too techy, but those would be the 3 things if you were getting started that I would research.
And don't let any of those things intimidate you. Like Logan said, they have great courses, or you could outsource someone to do that, or BlitzMetrics. But don't let it stop you from getting to any of these other things, because once you can actually target some of this success you're seeing, you're going to actually be able to increase exponentially what you're spending, or the ROI on what you're spending. Okay, so Natalie, next tip.
Let's talk about
number 2.
Starting organically. Now, you may think that just because you have a Facebook business page, that you have to spend a lot of money right from the start to get to your audience. Don't think that. Take that thought away from you, because that will be a good way to spend more money than you were expecting to spend or that you wanted to spend.
Sure.
So start organically, get a lot of content, get your content calendar ready, get your post in for the month, and start posting. Now, if you see that a post is performing really, really well, then put money behind it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later with Logan and his strategy. You're going to love it. But we are going to put money behind things that are already performing well. Because what happens if you put money behind everything? Facebook realizes, oh, this person is down to spend. So I'm going to reduce the reach to any other post that they do until they put money behind it. So it's going to be harder for you to reach an audience organically if you start from the get-go. Another thing that you need to keep in mind for these organic posts is don't use third-party apps yet. So if you can avoid them, do, but we all know that, we're busy, you have to automate some time. So if you're going to use third-party apps, also like to post on Facebook, also post organically and natively on Facebook, here and there sporadically, because Facebook will recognize that you're using a third-party app to post on your Facebook page, and they're going to reduce the reach right off the bat, and so that's not going to be good for you. But we all know, again, I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying also post natively, or you can even schedule posts or drafts on Facebook, just right on your Facebook page.
Totally. As well as, I would say, one thing to what you were saying about putting money on everything right off the bat, the other thing it does is it actually decreases your ability to know what's actually working.
Right.
So if everything's going to perform the same, then you're putting money to everything and you're not exactly sure what Logan and Dennis call the greatest hits are. If you're just kind of putting money on everything and just waiting to see what happens, especially if you have a smaller audience at first, it's hard to really nail what is more effective, even if you're doing it organically. So look at keys like reach, look at average engagement on different types of posts or content you're sharing, just to start seeing where those differences are. Even if they're small at the beginning, you can expand on that.
Exactly.
Okay, so number 3 tip that we have is be choosy with your spend. One of the things I like to do is I only put money to things that are towards our core goals. So if one of our core goals are to send more people to our website, I'm going to put the majority of my budget to link style posts on Facebook or things that are sending traffic to the website. So one of our big things we have now is we are offering this awesome free trial for people to go and try our product and see if it works for their small business. I maybe want to put the majority of my budget to goals like that. If your goal is to get engagement, then you really use the engagement feature on Facebook to put the money behind that. So really focus on what are your goals. And the other thing is really get specific with who you're targeting. So if you are on a small budget, which I'm frugal, so we might be a bigger business than your small business out there, but I still like to make sure I'm getting the most for whatever budget I'm spending. And so for me, I also like to make sure I'm using targeted audiences, custom audiences through different, CSVs with our, what have I done recently? Specifically, if I wanted to reach some of our partners, I'm going to use a partner list so that I'm spending just to the group I'm trying to reach with a certain piece. Or if we are doing a post about having a digital agency, I'm going to make a targeted audience approach at digital agencies out there. So get specific so you're spending where you want to see the benefits from. So Logan, speaking of this, these guys have one of the best strategies at really being choosy with your spend, and they call it $1 a day. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us more about your $1 a day strategy?
Definitely. So Facebook is very unique in terms of you don't need to spend a lot. I want to share a quick story. So the first ad I ever ran was in a newspaper. It's for this senior living retirement home. So we ran this ad in the newspaper, and we're in there for a whole month and nothing happens, right? We don't get any phone calls, no leads, no site visits, no purchases, and it costs $700. And they said, well, you know what, we don't have the money to continue advertising this way if we're not getting return. And that's the way a lot of traditional advertising works. When I think of TV or radio or billboard, you put your creative up there and you kind of just like hope it converts. On Facebook, you don't need to do that, right? I don't need to spend 20 or 10 or $5.
I love the props.
Right, yep, the props. I only need to spend $1 a day to find out if something works. So ultimately, an ad is two things. It's one piece of content and one target audience. And if the ad is not working, one of those two things is broken, right? So to find that out, to find if the content's good or if I'm targeting the right people, all I need to start with is $1 a day. So we like to do $1 a day over 7 days, 1 week initially, because you don't want to just do one day, because any one day could be a fluke,
right.
It could be the weekend or people weren't online or whatever. So $1 a day over 7 days, that's $7 of like a $5 foot long plus a drink from Subway, right? Not a lot to spend. And then you'll get some results back from Facebook, so you can look at your relevancy score, my cost per click. Again, to Crystal's points, whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to drive engagement or traffic to the website, that's what you'll look for. But just see if it did well or not, and you do a few at a time, compare apples to apples. So a lot of the times, if I'm posting, I'll take like the 5 posts that did best organically, and then put $1 a day against each of them initially for 7 days. Then I go in and compare reach and engagement and video views, whatever it is, apples to apples. So I'll say, you know what? On average, each of these posts got about 1,000 reach, but this post number 3 got 2,000 reach. That's my winner. So I know that one does well. So now I'm going to allocate more of my budget towards that one, just turn the others off. So that way we're always allocating our budget and our time against our winners.
Awesome. And I think personally that it's very helpful to put some strategy. In a very busy moment, it might just be easier to throw money on everything, same amount, and hope something succeeds. But the truth is, it does, especially if you want to work with a small budget, it does take a little time to figure out what are your greatest hits and what is working and what isn't with your audience, your targeting, all of that. So thinking about coming up with these great insights in a week. A week is not long to wait, and you're only spending $7 in that week. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here, is advertising on social media with a small budget. And these are the kind of things that can get you to spend your money most effectively and not have to put out a ton of money to make the biggest return on investment for your business.
Okay.
So
putting in like videos, links, photos, maybe
Yep.
a contest, maybe a poll, but I don't think you can boost polls. So any of that, have a content mix, and then boost every single one if you can for $1 a day for 7 days, and find out your greatest hits is what we're saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Thanks for recapping. That was awesome. But yeah, I'm really passionate about this because I don't think small businesses have to spend an arm and a leg or to get distracted by thinking they do and not try anything. You can make a big impact on your own small business today. You could start that this moment. Film a video. You guys do a lot of 1-minute videos, which
Yep.
gets back to those algorithm changes. So what are some topics they could try out?
So I love telling stories. So advertisers talk about something called the Bologna Principle, which is if any of you guys have a dog or a cat or some kind of pet, if you ever try and give it medicine if it's sick, like I have a dog, her name's Sydney, so I try and give her a pill, she won't eat it, right? She spits it out. And the only way to get the dog to take the pill is you have to wrap it up in some bologna or cheese or something the dog likes, and then you give it to him. So we're the same way, right? People don't like ads. They don't like being sold to. It makes them feel like they're being taken advantage of. So you want to use your videos to tell stories that then wrap your product into the end. So think of like Geico with the caveman or the gecko, or Old Spice with the guy on the horse. Like look at your man, now back to me, now back to him, now back to me, right? So these guys are selling a product, obviously, but they've cleverly wrapped it around a story because that's what people like. So think about the stories that matter to you, especially if you're a small business, an entrepreneur, a founder. Then you probably have some stories about why you became a musician or an athlete or into fashion or design or whatever vertical you're in. What inspired that to happen, and what stories like crafted the journey you're on. And then at the end, you have the call to action where you can then talk about what you do, what your business is, what products you offer. But if you lead with it, you'll turn people off.
Exactly. Now we have a question from the audience.
Awesome.
Are we ready for this? So
Yeah.
Isabel says, how about when you post and a number specific words, does that help boost your ad, or does Facebook reduce your reach as well? I'm not sure what she means.
If the post is really long, it doesn't matter too much. It matters if it's like really, really long form copy, it might hurt a little bit because it's taking up more inventory space, where Facebook has a limited amount of inventory. And if the average post posts have a size, right? So if my post is a picture, that'll take up more space than a one-liner that says, hey, what are you up to this week? Or I'm going to the ball game or whatever, right? So if my post is really long, it may be taking up the size of 2 or 3 posts. So it's taking up more inventory. So it could be charged more CPM, but I wouldn't worry about it. Like, good content's good content. If the long works better for you, do it.
I mean, it works really well for Dennis Yu. I mean, his posts are extremely long. He also has a big audience, but I mean, it works for some, so test what works for you.
Test it. If it's relevant to your audience, they're going to like it, and they're going to comment. You're going to have meaningful interactions, and Facebook's going to like it.
And on the slight chance you were talking about text actually on the image, you want to keep that to a bare minimum.
All right. And then Aaron Farnsworth just says hi, so hello. Thanks for joining.
Awesome. Okay, well, Logan, that was extremely helpful. You guys, we're going to put a link to BlitzMetrics in case you do need help with your digital plumbing, and make sure to follow Logan. He has some great examples of the 1-minute video, and he talks a lot about how you can use $1 a day on his Facebook page specifically, but he also has Instagram.
And if you have any other questions, you can always comment down below, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks so much, Logan. Thanks. Good job, man. Thanks for sharing that. And now we're going to actually invite Jennifer
Lexley, our expert resident content creator. Thank you for coming, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Jen actually wrote the guide that we're going to be linking you guys to, and a lot of great tips. So, take it away.
Alrighty. So, Jen, what can you tell us about, now we talked about how the average person spends 2.5 hours on social media, on their mobile phones. I mean, I'm usually on my mobile phone, on my phone.
Yeah.
So tell us about optimizing your content for mobile so that you can reach more audiences there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just kind of want to reiterate with a couple more statistics.
Awesome.
With a recent study that we have done, we found that 90% of Facebook users access the platform from their phone. That means 30% are only accessing from their desktop. Mobile is now accounts for 70% of the time people spend on digital media. 80% of Twitter's users are strictly mobile, and then 80% of Instagram users follow at least one business on their Instagram account. If you think about your own, you know, there's going to be at least one that's in your feed, and you're also seeing sponsored information there too. So, you know,
and I would actually even go as far to say that you've probably bought at least one thing from the business that you're following.
Or at least clicked on the call to action.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, I can get like $60 off of these shoes or whatever, you know, like, yeah, let me check it out. So, and then, you know, a final statistic is for YouTube. 7 out of the 10 minutes people spend on average watching content on YouTube is from their mobile phones. So there's no better time than now to optimize your social media for mobile. You guys actually covered a big part of what a good tactic is for optimizing social media for mobile, which is your live videos or short, you know, 1-minute content. People want small, digestible content that they can switch to seamlessly and quickly, you know, from post to post. So that's not just video, but it's, you know, a boomerang or a poll or, you know, just written content. But the thing to keep in mind with written content is you want to make sure that it's small and digestible. Again, you know, you don't want to have this long form thing that they have to scroll through. They don't have time for that. If they do, they might come back to it later. But what you can do is provide a bite-size summary and then a mobile-friendly link, like a bit.ly, that they can access it to.
The other thing you do really well in your blogs is you really segment it out really well. So if I don't have time to read the whole thing, I can get immediately to the area I think I need some help with.
Yeah, or like a too long didn't read kind of thing at the top. And then you also want to make sure that when you're creating the content, like, images or, you know, anything like any of your landing pages or anything like that you're linking to from social media, you want to make sure that it looks good on mobile. So when you're creating it, before you go to post and make it and publish, check the way it looks on your mobile device first.
Right.
You know, because sometimes things might get cropped or they might be blown out of proportion. So you just want to make sure that things look nice and sleek. And then you also need to make sure that you're posting at common usage times. So think about the time when people are like,
good
for
call
me,
out.
I use mass transit. I take the train to work. And what am I doing at 9 a.m. and at 5 p.m.? I'm scrolling through Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Those are, you got to think about like when people are probably most likely to be using their phones. But you also need to keep in mind time changes and time zones.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the early morning, you can do 7 a.m. Anytime from like 7 to 9. You know, people are going to be either waking up, getting ready, in the train, in public transit, or just like on their phone looking at it constantly, or after work. Also on the weekends, right? Do you have any statistics on the weekends? Just
unfortunately, I don't. I believe there are some in the blog post,
in the blog,
you
so
can
check
definitely go there. And then I also just wanted to highlight that there are tools as well that can help you with compressing videos and images, video or image editing, content editing. There's a whole list of tools available in the blog post under section 4. And just a couple of examples of live video that people might want to do, or like even quick snippets. Like if you think of like the BuzzFeed tasty videos, you know, like a DIY or like how to quick, you know, kind of bird's eye view interviews, or you know, like if you're going to an event, industry event or conference, doing a live video there, kind of giving people a look at like what you're seeing in real time.
Exactly, or a tour of the office you're at.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Anything
yep,
like
of your
that.
facilities, anything like that. Yeah, just giving people like that real-time look as if they're there with you.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, because people like that interaction when they feel like you're on FaceTime with them, like you're friends with them. So just like we're live now, and you guys can ask us any questions you want, and you can interact with us live. Your customers will also love seeing that you're live, you're available, you're a real person, you're not just a business, and that you have that great customer service. So we have a question from Katie. She wants to know, what are your thoughts on hashtags?
My thoughts on hashtags, I think that they're extremely useful, and I think they're important, especially if you're using ones that are trending and relevant to your industry or your business, or the topic that you're speaking to. That is how a lot of people find content, is they'll see what's trending.
And there's definitely some channels that hashtags are probably a little bit more successful on. For instance, Instagram, Twitter is still using hashtags, but you can also find them just by the keyword, so it works either way. And then Facebook, I would only really use a hashtag, excuse me, I'm not sure what a hashtag is,
it's like
but a hashtag on Facebook really just uses it to emphasize visually what you're talking about, so I would use them very sparingly.
Yeah, and I think I'd say the same for LinkedIn too. They now offer hashtags. They link hashtags now as well.
If I can chime in, for what you were saying LinkedIn, yes, they even give you suggestions, right, on LinkedIn for what hashtags to use. But on Twitter, I read somewhere that you can, you should not post more than 5 hashtags on Twitter.
For sure, I would even say 2, maybe 3.
2 or 3. Yeah. And on Instagram, just again, don't do a bunch of hashtags, do up to 5 that are very relevant, very niche. And what we've been doing for our Infusionsoft's Instagram is we have 3 that we always post, that we always use, and then 2 that that vary depending on the photo or post, specific post. So why don't you try that? Just try testing things out. We love A/B split testing, and we recommend it.
And focus on your relevant audience. It's not always best to pick a hashtag that has the most reach or the most people using it. Get a little bit more specific with who you're looking for when you pick which hashtag to use.
Now, Katie says, is it better to share content from Instagram directly to Facebook, or does that look spammy? I think that it's better to create, we were just talking about this, right?
Yeah.
It's better to create 2 different posts, one for Instagram, one for Facebook. Now, you may have 2 different audiences there completely, and 2 different, what am I trying to say? Oh, points to the post. And so if you have different pictures from a specific photo shoot, use different pictures. I mean, people like that you're taking the time and the effort to post different captions and things like that. So I recommend using 2 different posts.
And I don't know if you guys have friends that do that where they post like the same exact thing on both channels, but I get a little petty and I'll only like one of them. Only because I'm like, you should be telling me something different. Awesome.
Yeah.
We're
So
aligned
thing,
there.
Apparently.
It is a thing. So even if you're talking about the same thing, find a different picture and a different message for that audience. That would be my advice. Okay, Jen, do you have any other comments?
I think last but certainly not least is also keeping in mind doing your paid advertising for social media as well. Keeping mobile in mind, making sure that the message that you're putting in your paid advertising is targeted towards your mobile users, and that the content that you're putting in there
Awesome.
along the same guidelines that I just outlined.
Well, thanks so much to Jen, because she wrote an awesome blog that I think is really important for all of you guys, and it's actually been turned into a guide now. The link will be in the description, so make sure you guys visit that to get even better tips by channel, all of it. It's all in there, so check it out as soon as you're done here. And thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
If any other questions for Jen, make sure to post them down below, and she will get back to you soon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Now we have a very special guest coming. She will be joining us through Skype, so it's going to be very exciting. Her name is Amanda Holmes from Chet Holmes International, and she is a big star, so you're going to want to stay tuned for this one, as we call her, via Skype.
Yes. Stay tuned. We know this isn't bite-sizable content, but this is more of a workshop. Streaming.
Get your questions ready, because she knows everything about creating engaging content.
Hey, Amanda. How are you? Yes.
We can hear
Welcome
you.
to the show. You did. You did. We're so happy to have you today.
Do you have your video on?
Yeah, do you have your video on? Yeah, please. We want to show off your nice hairdo you have. There you are. Hi. It feels so much more personal now. So we're talking about our number 5 tip for advertising on social media with a small budget. And we're at a section that we know is near and dear to your heart, which is create engaging content. So we wanted to ask you, what type of posts have you been using that are the most engaging? Awesome.
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Right. Yeah. Yes, totally. But I want to say first, you are like a total example. I think it's amazing what you're doing at events especially. It's so cool. Yes. Yep. It was great.
Oh, sorry, Amanda. Sorry, Amanda. I guess we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. And for some reason, the audio isn't going through to Facebook.
Oh no.
Oh, we're so sorry. We're just realizing that. But
Hold on one second, because I don't want anyone to miss what you're saying. It's so important. I think you're hitting on the fact of really creating community as well, which is what social's all about. So it doesn't matter what you do day to day. I mean, you're in those trenches all the time, creating that community. Okay.
So let's recap to what she said.
Yes.
So let's give it a recap. Amanda, can you give us the points just one more time, point by point, so then I can repeat it for our audience? Right. Right, so you're a CEO, so you're just trying to make connections, and you're not really spending that money on advertising on social media, but you're just trying to make those connections and have conversations with your clients. Right. So what she was saying is, for example, you go to an event and you connect with speakers, you tweet them, you tweet what they're saying so that they can retweet you, and you make conversations like that. And then you make conversations and you make clients and you build relationships that way by tweeting at them and engaging with them at conferences.
And
or
she
at
does it
events.
first. She does it first to make sure they're going to actually retweet hers in the sea of all these other tweets they'll be getting. So I think like being stealth-like is so important. Getting in there right at the beginning and tweeting at the very beginning of the presentation is key. Hold on. Yeah, let me see. Terrell, are we set up? Because I don't want to miss anything that she is saying. So if it's better to just do a video Skype later and post it, I don't want anyone to miss what she's saying. It's too good, Amanda.
Yeah, it's too good.
Yeah, I know
Two
you
more
do.
tips. Okay.
Because I know how important it is. I don't want anyone to miss anything. So, because of these technical difficulties, is it okay if we touch base with you after and work out getting a Skype interview or another live thing going? Because I don't want anyone to miss it. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure. Okay. Okay.
So
we'll figure it out. I'm so sorry, but it's so important. I don't want anyone to miss anything.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, to all of our listeners, stay tuned because we are going to get that with Amanda Holmes. She has like killer tips. And to her point, she's wearing the CEO hat. So she's just like you guys. She's doing what you have to do every day. And we know the time is so valuable. And getting all of this in is extremely important. So thank you, Amanda. We're going to make sure they get the message because I think it's killer from your point of view. Thanks
Amanda.
again.
We're so sorry.
Okay, guys. Thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties. It's really important stuff that she's talking about, so we're going to make sure we get that to you after this live show. So stay tuned for number 5, create engaging content.
We're for sure going to bring her back, by the way.
For sure.
We really wanted her on the show, but sometimes life happens and sometimes you have technical difficulties, but
and sometimes you cry about it later. We're saving our tears for our pillows, but we're going to get you the info. Exactly. So we're going to move on to number 6, which is keep all your platforms in mind. So Natalie, take it away.
So this is another big thing that that because of we were talking about this way earlier at the beginning of the live show, which was Facebook and Instagram's algorithm have changed drastically so that your posts are not getting the reach they were before. But you can't keep all your eggs in one basket, right?
No,
so
you definitely can't.
In life at all. So what you need to do is diversify. And we talk about this all the time when we're doing our social media here at Infusionsoft. We post on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. So we have all these avenues, all these platforms, and it's very, very important for you to choose. If you're just starting out, at least choose 2 or 3. And that doesn't include Instagram and Facebook because they're the same company. Do Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, maybe. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, depending on what your business is, right? Mm-hmm. So your audience might be very active on other channels that you're not targeting. So let's say you are a restaurant and you post a lot of pictures of your food, of things that are happening or events at your location on Instagram. You're going to want to post things on Twitter as well, like your hours, like your events. You can create events like that or go live while there's an event on Periscope on Twitter. So diversify your channels. Make sure that, different channels work differently for different things, like LinkedIn. If you have a speaker coming in, if you're a digital agency and you have a blog that you want to put out, you can put it out on LinkedIn and create connections like that, professional connections on LinkedIn. So there's different avenues that you can use, and they all serve a different purpose. Right, Crystal?
Right, and I think those were great examples. I'll throw in one little, I love Pinterest. I'm probably like one of the few people that love it. But if you're a service-based business, it's a great place to put blogs about what you do and tips to help, because they really do drive a lot of traffic too. So just a shout out to Pinterest.
Shout out Pinterest. Alrighty, so now we're going to take any questions from the audience. Anything that you liked that might recap what we said before. And if you're watching this after the video went live, you can also comment it, because we'll comment right back as Infusionsoft, right? Definitely.
So we have one last tip for you, which is follow the rules. And I'm big on this. I mean, I'm a rule follower. So make sure you understand how the algorithm is working so that you use the content that's relevant for you to just maximize on the algorithm. So that means actually spending some time learning about any algorithm changes that are happening. Natalie and I, we talk about this we really do it every other month. We'd shoot for once a month, but it really, because of how busy we are, it happens to be every other month. But we look into any changes and anything new that we can be using to boost our message even further. So these have been 7 tips for advertising social media marketing on a small budget. And we know that's important to everyone. And we just really want you guys to succeed. So let us know if you have any questions right now. We're just closing out here and we want to make sure we can help you, but we'll also answer any comments you post later.
Exactly. And to recap, we've talked about how to manage your digital plumbing so that you can get right there and started on social media and on your advertising. We've talked about creating engaging content, optimizing for mobile, diversifying, using live video, all of that.
She's such a pro with the recap. It's like, I don't have to say anything. Do we have any questions coming in at all before we close out?
Not any live questions.
Okay, let us know if you guys need anything. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. And if you didn't have time to finish it all in once, definitely go back and check out the other tips.
Exactly.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
See you next time.
Definitely.